Consider this. You're hanging out with a group of friends who are all enthusiastic about video games. Naturally, as gamers often do, the conversation turns into a debate about opinion. Which video game item is the best? You know the sort of thing.
Damn it, Kyle! You know that the Fire Flower from the Mario series is like the most iconic item in video game history.
More iconic than the Warthog from Halo, Matt? It's a truck with a gun. What's more iconic than a truck with a gun?
Of course it's more iconic than a truck with a gun, Kyle. You shoot fireballs out of your hands. Actual fireballs out of your actual hands, Kyle.
You know where a fireball's pretty useless, Matt? In space. Do you know where this truck goes? In space. It's a
Listen,
space
I don't care
truck,
about
Matt.
space. You might be in space.
What's the point of this argument? What are they even trying to accomplish here? Arguing with a gamer is often a Sisyphean task, but arguing about something as vague as this is just impossible. The problem here is that the question left them with too many options. There were too many video game items to choose from. As a result, neither one of them was able to organize any real semblance of an argument. And this doesn't just relate to having a formal debate. Every one of us has to deal with overwhelming options every single day. From choosing what to watch, finding a place to eat, to even picking out brands of cereal at the grocery store, we are constantly inundated with options. And you've likely experienced this yourself. Just imagine, you turn on Netflix and you spend 25 minutes flipping through all the new content and recently added shows before you just end up watching Office reruns for the 100th time. And with the rise of digital distribution, the games industry has seen a similar phenomenon itself. Everything from AAA titles down to bite-sized indies are being produced at such a fast rate that we can't possibly consume them all. There are literally dozens of new games coming out every day. So the act of simply choosing what game to play can become an overwhelming decision. And just like Netflix, the same thing happens. You decide you want to play a game, so you turn on Steam or access your console library and look through this long list of games you've already purchased, but never even started. Or maybe you pay into a subscription service like Xbox Game Pass, or even the Nintendo Switch Online. And after flipping through the list for about 20 minutes, you end up playing nothing. So why is this happening? Why is it such an obstacle to just play a game that you've already paid for? Well, here are a few common responses you might have used yourself. Excuse number 1, I just don't have the time. But do you know what the one thing the national pandemic, which has left many things closed and forced us all to stay inside our homes, has done? Given us more time to play video games, so this ain't it, Chief. Excuse number 2, that sounds like a lot of work and I just want to chill. It takes a lot of effort to learn a new game. I'd have to learn all the new characters, engage with an unfamiliar setting, and figure out the game's mechanics. It's not unlike learning a new skill or language in that you have to be willing to leave your comfort zone and meet it on its own terms. But most of the time when I say I want to chill, I end up raging over losing matches in my multiplayer comfort picks, like Apex Legends or League of Legends. So clearly I want to engage with something. Excuse number 3, I'm just not feeling that right now. Sure, yes, sometimes I am not in the mood. But again, just like TV and movies, just because I like gritty crime dramas doesn't mean I always want to watch one. So maybe I don't always want a 60+ hour JRPG in my life. I don't know, maybe I'll be more into this tomorrow when I've got more of a headspace for it. But here's the thing. I bought it, and I bought it because it's exactly something that I would like. So clearly that's not it either. We've established that time and effort are definitely factors, but they're not really driving this inability to decide. Psychologists call this inability decision paralysis. It's a paralyzing fear that comes from having too many things to choose from. In our heads, the decision-making is not, do I play this game, yes or no, but instead, do I play this game instead of all the other games? American psychologist Barry Schwartz popularized this idea in his 2004 book, The Paradox of Choice. In it, he argues that the freedom of options actually oppresses us more than it does to liberate us. The idea is that having too many options creates expectations in our minds. When we're faced with a decision, we're naturally going to want to pick the best thing for us. Now, that decision then creates an expectation that what we did pick is in fact the best thing. Once making the decision, we then create an imagined alternative. a world where we decided the other thing was the best thing. And then our brains ask the question, but what if the other thing really is the best thing? And what if I've made the wrong choice? Sort of a grass is always greener situation. Think about the days before the internet. When you wanted to pick out a game, what did you do? You went to the store and picked up whatever game for your chosen console had the coolest looking box art. You didn't spend hours reading reviews or watching trailers. You looked at that copy of Gex 64 Enter the Gecko and said, well, I like Mario and James Bond, I'll give Gex a shot. And then you went home, you played it, and you recognized it was garbage.
It's tail time.
Back then, games were almost a complete binary. It was either Sega or Nintendo, Sonic or Mario, action or role-playing, or Madden. But nowadays, the idea that you would spend time, money, and energy on a game like Gex 64 is simply impossible. But why is it such a big deal that choosing to play Gex 64 is the right choice? Because now you know what the imagined alternatives are of you not playing Gex 64. And you know each one of them are so much better. Schwartz compared his experience of buying jeans today to buying jeans as a kid. Back when he was young, there was only one, maybe two options. From his perspective, he wasn't picking between dozens of brands, he was simply buying the jeans. So, when after making the decision, if he was unhappy with the jeans, it wasn't really his fault. It was the manufacturer for producing a bad product, or maybe the retailer for selling him something that he didn't like. But now, in our world of nearly infinite choices, we are all saddled with the responsibility of making the wrong choice. And so how much you enjoy your decision is the sum of all the other imagined alternatives of games you could have picked instead of Gex 64. Okay, I promise this is the last time I make fun of Gex 64 in this video. Now, let's go back to the argument from earlier and remove some of the imagined alternatives from our debaters' minds. To do so, we're going to retool the question by narrowing the focus and establishing some parameters. Maybe instead of the best item in any video game, we limit it to a genre or even series. Best tends to be very objective. What does best even mean anyway? Is it the most powerful, the most effective, most game-breaking, or maybe it's just the most fun and interesting to use? So let's get very specific and ask something like, what is the most game-breaking tool in the Legend of Zelda series? Here we have a finite pool of possible answers. Instead of comparing Mario's Fire Flower against Master Chief's Warthog, we can compare the Fierce Deity Mask from Majora's Mask against the Ancient Arrows in Breath of the Wild. Both are extremely powerful tools and are used by mostly the same character. But we're still comparing two unlike things. One is a mask intended for boss battles, and the other is a consumable item tailored to unique enemies in the game's open world. How about instead of comparing one against the other, we just ask a pointed question? Let's bring back our debaters and make them take a stand one way or the other. Which Link would win in a fight? Young Link equipped with the Fierce Deity Mask, or Breath of the Wild Link equipped with Ancient Arrows? This new pointed question gives the debaters a much more specific pool of resources to choose from, but it also gives them more flexibility working within those parameters. Now knowing that one of them will be arguing in favor of Young Link, the other can prepare a rebuttal about Young Link's weaknesses, therefore broadening their argument past the baseline question.
Now, Matt, I don't want to knock the Ancient Arrows. They're a great item, very helpful when you're trying to take on Guardians or Calamity Ganon. But you'd have to be crazy to think they're going to do anything to Fierce Deity Link. He's a boy possessed by an ancient Hylian god. He's got super speed.
No. Listen here, Kyle. I am a huge fan of protagonists infested by ancient gods and demons, but you know that Breath of the Wild Link with the Ancient Arrows is 100% going to win that fight. I mean, if you hit one thing with the Ancient Arrows, they literally just get deleted.
Matt, you got to hit me with those arrows. I'm going to be zipping around the field. You're not going to be able to touch me with anything, let alone arrows that you got to aim.
Oh, whatever.
On, man.
You know Breath of the Wild Link uses bullet time mechanics all throughout that game. There is no doubt in my mind that Breath of the Wild Link could hit young Link with the Fierce Deity Mask with an Ancient Arrow.
Now, Matt, we know...
But back to the broader topic. How can we use this logic in making decisions? There are still too many games. The answer is simple. Eliminate the alternatives. Start by narrowing your field of options. Some distribution platforms like Steam try to categorize things by tagging genres. But in this day and age, genres are so rarely defined. So we need to go deeper. Consider starting with a game that you most recently got into, or maybe a game that you played as a kid that you'd like to recapture. For example, I really like Castlevania Symphony of the Night, but there is literally an entire genre dedicated to games like that. And so just looking through Metroidvania games still leaves you with 100 plus choices. Next, let's narrow the field. What did I like most about Symphony of the Night? Was it the story, the setting, the RPG mechanics, the music? After applying some filters, what I really should be looking for is a 2D Metroidvania game with RPG-like mechanics in a dark or gothic setting. From there, I can narrow it down to just a few legitimate options: Salt and Sanctuary, Blasphemous, or Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. From there, maybe I decide that the anime inspirations of Symphony of the Night are not my thing, so I can cross off Bloodstained. And just like that, my list of imagined alternatives has become significantly less. And now my expectations are now only as high as the one option I don't pick. Just like picking between the latest SNES game at the video store all those years ago, my choice is now simple. Do I pick between Victorian horror or medieval horror? Thank you very much for watching this video. If you enjoyed, please consider subscribing to our channel and giving this video a like. Also, if you like this script and the two debaters, why don't you head over to debatethiscast.com or search for Debate This wherever you get your podcasts to hear their weekly show called Debate This. It is hilarious, and if you're looking for another gaming podcast with a comedic flavor to it, I definitely recommend it. And speaking of gaming talk shows, consider heading over to our Twitch channel, which is linked down below, for our show on gaming news. And if you'd like some recommendations on games to play, head over to our Discord, where there's plenty of helpful discussion. Either way, thank you again for watching, and until next time, have a wonderful day.